Footy and Frothies, Daggy and Barney are back with you to get stuck into week one of the 2023 finals. Rough one for you, mate.
Yeah, what do you do? Was what didn't come unexpected.
True.
A lot of fight out of the Sharks, which was good to watch. But yeah, some pretty poor decisions to be made along the way, which ended up costing them in the end. So
Yeah, but four good games of rugby league, but two
absolutely.
tight ones, entertaining ones. I wasn't bored by any means across the weekend, which is all I ask for from footy. How was everything else going? All right?
Yeah, mate. No, things are going okay. It's plenty of work on, which keeps me busy. So yourself? Good, nice. Always something to do. So
Yeah, sorry, same. Yeah, no, getting into it. Getting into Spring Carnival, of course, which is so far so good productivity-wise. So you can check it out and show us your tips over the spring. Barn, of course, traditionally for the last 4 years has joined us for the Melbourne Cup as well. So
I think I tipped about 15 things that ran third or fourth last week. So good weekend.
So stay tuned for Barney's tips. Can't wait. Let's get in. But yeah, no, it's good. Everything's going good. Can't complain. Coaching a young fella at cricket now, so
very good.
Kicks off this week. Oh, and daughter as well.
Some of the wisdom.
Poor bugger. It's hoping for a proper coach. But anyway, see what we can produce there. Let's get into some news, shall we?
What do you got?
Well, signing news. Paul Alamote signed with the Panthers today. Didn't see that coming, but they've signed him up as a backup centre, I assume. Maybe even a starting centre. He's on a one-year deal there. Brad Schneider, which was the rumour, officially is back from the UK to fill the Jack Cogger spot. So a couple of Penrith signings. Hudson Young's extended to 2027 at Canberra, so wrapping him up. Kyle Flanagan, in a win for nepotism everywhere, is signed with the Dragons for 2 years to join his old man. Can't remember if we talked about it last week or not. Anyway, it's happened.
No, I don't think we did.
Any thoughts on any? And on sort of rumour, but apparently Jareen Bull has been offered a 5-year $1 million deal
By the Tigers
to stick around, which
they really
I guess
need
they
to
can
bump that offer up. I know they already offered him a fair bit of money as a kid, but he's already, the fact that he's come out and shown what he can do, they really needed to increase that offer if they're any chance of keeping him. Hudson Young's a good one. I dare say they make him the face of the club for the next 5 or 10 years, I would imagine. I dare say they'll try and cement him in that squad for probably the rest of his career and be the leader of that forward pack going forward. So he's someone that never lacks effort and is consistently always putting in the last 2 or 3 years. He's been one of their leaders realistically, and not being in that leader position, but he's led by his actions, and he's consistently always in and around the ball. So Alamote's interesting. Penrith will trade him up, and I guess they'll give him a year to see whether he fits the bill or whether he moves on. But can't hurt to go to, as we mentioned with Snyder last week, it's not going to hurt to go to Penrith. They seem to be able to produce some pretty bloody good football players coming out of that stable there. So,
well, and we know on potential he could be a star. He's a junior star, and as you said, if any system's going to get out of him, it'll be Penrith. I wonder how much conversations had between Ciraldo and back and forward recommending or not recommending, or whether he just went and saw the opportunity. But it's interesting as they look. I guess there is a centre spot up for grabs with Crichton going.
Yep.
Peachy on the cards, I suppose. Might probably gets first crack off this year, but they've got a stack of outside backs that are all going to be knocking the door down.
100%.
Injury-wise, there's some carnage across the weekend.
Wasn't there?
The big one, Ryan Pappenhausen's had, I believe, 5 or 6 screws put in his ankle, the poor bugger, on the back of having Nelson land across his leg there. It didn't look pretty, but it's better than first anticipated. They're hoping he might even be back, mid-pre-season.
Start pre-season.
Yeah, start of next year. So that was a very, very sad sight, and fingers crossed that there's no long-term repercussions out of that.
Yeah, a lot of pain, poor bugger.
Xavier Coates also did his ankle in the game. He's out this week. Young Tonumapia may not have been selected, but he's also out with a head knock, as I'll get you just to lift your mic up a tad. Joey Manu, Joseph Swaley, and Billy Smith are all out this week. Hamstring again, and a couple of head knocks there. So
broken jaw for Billy Smith.
Broken jaw, is it? He's another one that's had a
played 35 minutes with a broken jaw.
Horrible 5 years, essentially.
Didn't look that bad. With there was high contact there from Hazelton, but it didn't actually look like the contact was that bad. But yeah, turns out he played 35 minutes with a broken jaw, so must have been some pretty clean contact.
I hate, well, obviously he has to be eating through a straw for a while, but at least it should mean he gets most of pre-season.
Yeah, you would
because he was in
so.
quite good form.
Absolutely, back end of the year he was flying.
And I guess we're all waiting. The other news of the day is what happens with Jack Whiten, who pleaded not guilty to a biting charge. And as right at now, there is, as at 8:05, the panel's now considering the length of the ban. They're trying to push for a couple of weeks. He's been found guilty of biting, despite the fact that Gamble didn't want to put in any further statement. And yeah, the Whiten defence is pushed for 2 weeks, but we'll see what comes out there. I'm thinking probably a month.
That's all. Everything you heard during the day today was a month. Considering the young lady got 6 weeks just the week before, and I don't think the evidence was much worse than what you saw out of the Whiten situation. And their season's realistically half of what the NRL is, so that's figuratively a 12-week ban. You would think that it would get at least 4 weeks, but especially if you found him guilty. I don't know how they find him guilty. The video evidence, unless there's other angles, obviously, which we haven't seen, we're not privy to. There might be a different angle that says that he was guilty, but to me it looked more like a pretty forceful grapple tackle in and around the mouth than anything else. So.
I thought the end of the shot, one of the shots looked more condemning, where it looked like he was biting down or trying to spit his arm out.
I saw him open his mouth up.
Like trying to, as more like having half a second go there. But anyway, I didn't deliberate. I didn't see those angles, and I guess we'll wait and see. We'll know by the end of the show.
Yeah, 100%.
Anything else you've got to touch on? We just quickly, I thought, and this is courtesy of sportingnews.com.au, a list of the club award winners to date. So very quickly, I thought it might be something interesting. But good. Canberra Raiders, Joseph Tapine was voted their Player of the Year.
Yep.
Seb Chris won the Coaches Award. For the Bulldogs, Jacob Preston was their 2023 winner.
Yep.
Carraz Coaches Award, and Preston pretty much swept the rest of the awards there. Nothing from the Sharks yet, and nothing from Brisbane yet. Izako for the Dolphins was the inaugural Arthur Beetson medalist.
Yes.
With Katoa being Rookie of the Year. Gold Coast Titans, still waiting to hear. You'll be shocked to know, we mentioned this last week, Manly DCE won their Players Player.
No, I'm not surprised.
And Kalen Ponga won the Newcastle Players Player, the Denny Badiris Award. Or Newcastle Players Award, Player of the Year Awards. Players Player was Tyson Frizzell. New Zealand Warriors, Sean Johnson. Players Player, Sean Johnson. Parramatta Eels, Gutho, 2023. And he won pretty much everything else. Greg got their Rookie of the Year. And Blake Laurie was the Dragons Player of the Year. Also the Players Player. Jareem Buller in his first year not only won Rookie of the Year, but won the Player of the Year for the Tigers. Okay. And yeah, there's a list there. I guess something interesting.
Yeah, I thought Appy might have got that one. Jacob Preston, well deserved. Definitely the best player that we saw out of the Bulldogs. And what was the one that you just mentioned just before the Tigers?
Laurie.
Yeah, another one, well deserved, was fantastic, especially once he took over the captaincy. It grew another leg. Just giving effort on effort. It was fantastic. And was, the Dragons' best player, I thought as well. So I think they got pretty much spot on with most of those awards from what you've said.
That's about it. And for the news, let's get to our reviews. The finals kicked off Friday night, 26-0. Brisbane over Melbourne. Took them about a half to really find their feet, Brisbane. It was a scrappy first half. We didn't see Melbourne find their feet at all, but what did the stats say?
It was pretty competitive. Definitely physical. 4 tries to 0 and 4 out of 4 conversions for the Broncos. 1 out of 1 penalty attempt for Brisbane and a missed 2-point field goal right on half-time from the Brisbane side. 75% completion, played 67%. 297 plus running metres and 131 plus post-contact metres for the Broncos. 5 line breaks to 1. 57 tackle busts to 32. 6 offloads to 14. 2 forced dropouts from both sides, a 40-20 from the Broncos. 276 tackles played, 326, 12 errors from both teams, 5 penalties conceded from Brisbane, 10 conceded from the Storm. 2 ruck infringements against the Storm and 1 inside the 10 against the Storm.
This was probably the most unsettled Melbourne have looked
Absolutely
all year in attack. I know they went out of their way to get in a few people's faces and maybe get Harry and
wasn't he in a bad mood?
Munster. They were producing some pumpkin-headed efforts at times in this game, but that as a game plan, fair enough, because it put them off their game. Whether that's symbolic of how much they haven't played together over the year, really. They've spent so much time in but there shouldn't be any excuses. They've been together for 3 or 4 years as a team, that Spine especially. But their attack was pretty ordinary at times. Physically, they matched up. Yeah.
For parts.
For Nelson coming on really probably dragged them back into the game, actually, because early on they got owned. But
they did.
I thought that on top of not looking great, when they did get the momentum, it's almost like watching some of the Tigers games. Threw it away within a heartbeat. Let Reynolds kick one out and kick a 50-metre drop out to give ball back to
over
them.
The sideline,
blew a couple of scrums. There was a couple of other dumb plays early in sets. It just didn't really look like a Melbourne finals effort. I don't know if it was the occasion or flustered, but ultimately, and I'll let you talk about the Brisbane attack and what you thought of Melbourne, but ultimately, the 15-game hoodoo, whatever it is, been ended now and ended pretty emphatically.
Blown away. Scramble defence for mine was pretty much the order of the weekend. I don't know how many tries you saw saved on in every game. There was a minimum 2 or 3 tries getting saved just by fantastic scramble defence. Melbourne had to absolutely scramble their ass off in that first half, not to be behind by probably 20 points going into that first half, because Brisbane were just running all over them at different points in that first half. It was a very tense and tough game, especially in that first half. Brisbane had all the ball for the first 10 minutes or so and just camped down there on the Melbourne try line, and they did turn them away quite a few times. But they just seemed to be playing at a different speed than the Melbourne team. Their play the ball was so much faster. The physical efforts out of their forward pack was just astonishing. Some of those contacts you could hear come through the television with the big boys just belting into the defenders, and they were just bouncing guys all over the place especially in the first 20 minutes of the game. The Storm did pretty well, I thought, to stay in touch in that first 40 minutes, but they seemed nervous. They seemed very nervous for a team that has so much experience in and around that spine. They seemed very, very nervous and made quite a few errors early on in the match. A couple of beautiful individual efforts was what really got the Broncos away from the Storm early in the game. Now, that first try, it was a beautiful short ball from Reynolds, but that line that was run by Staggs and beats 4 of them on the way to the try line and takes one with him as he crashes over. And then followed up by Ricky, who did basically the same thing, just a little bit closer to the post. Off again, another sublime little short ball off Adam Reynolds, just holding it up and timing it perfectly, hit him on the chest and put him through a hole.
I think I heard a conversation this morning where they Reynolds came out and said that the plan was to play left all night, and as soon as Ricky scored early on, they just decided to move the target.
Right, yeah, Staggs was the first one.
Staggs, sorry.
Yeah.
And I think all of their points came on that right edge. It was not a great defensive night for Tonamapia.
Yep.
Munster, as a result, was floundering at times. And
he got completely stood up a couple of times.
Yeah, well, that last try was in daylight. Last one wasn't with daylight, I mean.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the Staggs one on the first one as
well.
The
Ricky one, and then obviously Cobbo was the
I think he was in and around every try, to be honest. Yeah. Munster getting pushed off, and once the other, I think he just ran straight past and he didn't touch him, but. He beat 4 on his way to the line, and they continued that up-tempo physical game, and that Storm couldn't go with them. Like they were completely gassed by the last 20 minutes of this game. And
after the Ricky try, I think I messaged you or messaged the chat and said that Melbourne did well to scramble and not concede another 20 here, because I thought the gates were about to open and they were really going to blow them.
Well, they just kept them on the back foot. Like with the playing that quick through the play the ball, they just kept them on the back foot for the whole night. Whenever they did seem to get some field position and get down Brisbane's end, it was pinpoint kicking from Reynolds that got them back, pin them back down in their corner and make them do all that tough shit again to try and get back to halfway. He was brilliant in this game. And really pushed the Storm's defence around. I mentioned Ricky Walsh's effort as well was another lovely bit of got put into a half a hole, and his footwork and speed just got him past 2 and 3 defenders for him to get through, and then he just can beat the fullback all ends up to score. Really, the only one that was sort of conjured by the halves, apart from a short ball, was the Cobbo one, which was a beautiful little rainbow ball out to the winger. But it just came down to physical ball running and the want to run that line and not worry about getting hit, and a bit of footwork and pace. And
well, and it was the two usual suspects that set that up.
Yeah, Walsh and Reynolds. Just
and
floating across. Oh, through the middle. Yeah, to be able
through the physicality.
Just to keep him on the back foot for so long. Coates was the best of the back five by far for the Storm, but they didn't have a lot going on there. Nelson, Sims and Eisenhuth were good off the bench. King and Kamika were very good in the middle, but Hines was their most productive player. He seemed to be the only one that looked like breaking the Broncos' defence, and it didn't really happen at all at any part of the... Hey, Hughes.
Hughes, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, did I say Hines?
Yes.
Did I? Meant to say Hughes. But Jerome Hughes, looked like the only bloke who was going to break open the line at any point, and just still couldn't get it done. It was complete domination. I thought it probably should have been a 40-0 scoreline, realistically. But Melbourne's scramble defence was good enough to keep them from being completely blown away. There was Cobbo, Hetherington were good. Staggs and Carrigan were fantastic. You throw Farnworth and Ricky in there as well. They all played fantastically well. But it was the big three that get points pretty much every week in Reynolds, Walsh and Payne Haas. They were just brilliant. They absolutely did everything that they had to do and completely controlled this match for the Broncos side.
Yeah, Carrigan's hard done by not to get points, but I'll agree with you. What order are you going for our player of the finals?
Yeah, I had Reynolds with the 3.
Yeah.
Without his kicking game and a couple of those short passes for those try assists, it's a completely different game, I thought. Then I had Payne Haas with the 2. Again, another one, just laid the platform. They don't get into the positions they get in without him on the field. And Bruce Walsh with the 1.
Yeah, and honorary mention both Carrigan and Ricky. Ricky had a real game. And
Staggs, Farnworth were both
he had
good.
that edge, but his physicality was outstanding actually in his game as well.
Yeah, well, he started the year fantastically as well, and then sort of had a bit of a lean trot through the middle of the year. There was an injury in there as well, but getting back to his best form now.
But yeah, ultimately, the best or second best team looked exactly like it in this game, and that was pretty clear. We get to the other best or second best team, take on the Warriors here, 32-6 at Bluebet, which looks very different in the afternoon. It was a bit odd looking at watching it in the middle of the Arvo, but another clinical performance from Penrith, who are just so good at what they do. But what do the stats say?
5 tries to 1, 5 out of 5 conversions played, 1 out of 1 for the Warriors, 1 out of 1 penalty attempt for Penrith, 82% completion played, 72%, 556 plus running metres and 128 plus post-contact metres for the Penrith side. 9 line breaks to 0, 55 tackle busts to 26, 10 offloads from both teams, 1 forced dropout from Penrith, 359 tackles played, 400, 8 errors to 14, 4 penalties conceded to 6, 2 ruck infringements to 1. Again, like 3/4 of the last 3 seasons, Penrith were dominant. They weren't just good. They weren't just better. They were just dominant in almost every position of the field.
Flattered New Zealand.
Yeah, it could have been 50. Could have been 60. But as I said, like 3/4 of the last 3 years, they've dominated opponents. They haven't just beaten teams.
Yeah.
They have ground them into the dirt and made them look like subpar opposition, and they did it again here in the first week of the finals.
What was so apparent, and I use the analogy heaps now, we would use the old Chinese cuts one, we use the deep, but 20 minutes into this game, before a point was scored, maybe it was 6-0.
Yeah, it was 6-0.
And the Warriors were in deep water, like they were in the deep water, and they didn't like it.
No.
But what Penrith do is that they know, as I've said for 4 years, they earn the right, they know the points will come, so they don't differ from 100%. Their shape, they do the same thing. If you go back and watch all their tries, they do the same thing for 5 of the 6 5 of the 6 tries, but someone else scores as a result. Absolutely. It's the forward. There's no real.
And they go out of their way.
There's not a heap of. Trying to get a comparison. If you watch, say, the Bulldogs, or actually the Tigers are. Well, I'm not trying to compare the Tigers to the Panthers because it's not fair on either party. But if you watch how much ball the Tigers have in opposition to any, I think they're second to Penrith or first in the
ball movement, changes of angles.
There's 4 tackles that the Tigers have hit ups on.
Yeah.
And then someone kicks out in the fall or something.
No, Penrith go 1-2 and
Penrith
have
something happening within. If it's not the second set, or someone's running a different angle, or someone's having a different hit up, or they're moving.
If you even look at the 2 teams that went out this week, like Canberra and Cronulla, that once Penrith go to shape, they'll go to an edge, and they'll come back to the other side with shape. Yeah. Whereas you'll see Penrith, the likes of the Sharks and Canberra will set up again. Yeah. They'll come back with that one hit up, which just gives the defence time to adjust and get back out to that other side. Whereas Penrith will come back with a double wrap around and then hit the other edge. And then they'll become, if they do come back to the middle, they're coming back to the middle with 2 blokes running at 2 different angles and giving the ball player 2 different options. So it just completely makes the defence, it's different gravy.
And all of a sudden, either someone's scoring untouched or Tuo's got like a 20-metre gap where he just wanders in. So it's just amazing to watch. Cleary was phenomenal in this game. And this isn't a knock on his effort because I'm giving 3 points. He was absolutely outstanding and directed everything, including managing a try assist with 1 shoe on. But what everyone else does so well at their job that makes him look so good. So he doesn't score that last try if everyone else's bodies in motion aren't where they should be because he sucked them in for the first 4.
But he also
so everyone's just either cooked or already trying to follow the other defender. And then he can make those, and he's big enough body.
I think he ended up making about 23 runs in this game.
Yeah, he did.
And quite a few of them were early in this game. So that running in that first 5 or 10 minutes, having 3 and 4 and 5 runs in that first 10 minutes really opens up your outside men too. So he's giving them extra options as well as them providing options to him because now they're sitting back on their heels going, is he going to dig on the inside shoulder or I have to stay set? And then there's a short ball on the outside shoulder, and then they just brush past the defender, and he's standing there looking like an idiot because he didn't know which way to go. So,
exactly. Where are you going here to talk about some stuff? Anything else? But apart from it's a very hard team to analyse because everyone is so good at what they do.
Yeah, well, 4 minutes in, it felt like it's going to be a pretty comfortable win. And 20 minutes in, it just looked like it was going to be dominant.
Yeah.
5 or 6 minutes later, it was just proven. Like Penrith, just as you said, just went through the motions. Every sort of 10 or 15-minute increments into the game, they just cranked up a little bit more pressure. Continually kicked into the corners. Absolutely made the Warriors work their arse out just to get into range of the 50-metre line, let alone get down into Penrith's half. What Penrith do really well is they target. They put targets on players. Every time you saw Fanua Blake or Tohu Harris touch the ball, they had 2 and 3 blokes coming in from all different angles to try and put a shot on them. Yeah. And you're going to get sick of that after a while. Yeah. It doesn't matter how good you are. You're going to get sick of getting hit from 3 different angles and getting hit hard. They both had pretty good games, but they were...
Tohu,
they had the edge taken off them compared to.
I know he's carrying an back injury, but he made 56 tackles, but he didn't look himself.
They didn't have the effect. They didn't have the effect on the attack as they normally do. Obviously, Sean Johnson there doesn't help, but he's not stopping any of these tries that Penrith scored either. So you could add a try or 2 maybe to the Warriors tally, but you're not taking anything off Penrith. So it didn't really matter. I mentioned the running game early from Cleary. What I really like is that angled run. You saw it so many times where he angles to the outside shoulder of the defender and then he'll straighten up. And as I said just before, the defender then is now pushing his weight back on his inside shoulder, and that opens up the short ball, it opens up the cutout pass, and it opens up the rainbow ball because they've all now standing on their heels going, do we need to jam in or not? And it was just fantastic. Yo really helped him create space in this one. I know we had problems. We were worried about the dummy half a lot, but you've seen what Penrith have done to counteract that.
Yeah.
Yo basically just stands behind the dummy half, and they just shovel it straight to him, and then he plays as that dummy half 1 or 2
Mitch
steps
Kenny
back.
was fantastic in defence in this game.
No, he's rock solid in defence.
He hit some people in this game.
And I think that's the whole reason they've had him there, is
Yeah.
to shore up that middle throughout the entirety of the year. And he's not bad with his service off the ground, but Yo is just so creative when they can give him that short pass off the dummy half, and then he works in and around on the edges of the ruck. He really gave Penrith a lot more space there on the outside edges, which helped them. Cleary's kicking game was on another level as well. Like him and Reynolds at the moment are just in a different level to everybody else in the competition with their kicking games. It's brilliant. Apart from probably obviously DCE, but he's not around at the moment. So, there was some really big holes around the ruck. But the big problem I think for the Warriors is, again, as we've mentioned, out in the centres and on the edges, there was some massive holes out there, and they got opened up pretty convincingly at times from this Penrith side. And I can see some of the other teams in this comp being able to do that as well. So, especially one that they were coming up against this week, with Ponga being able to expose some edges out there with Gagai and Young and Marzu and all the attacking threats out there.
Yeah.
Newcastle have to be a hell of a lot better than they were this week, but there is opportunities out there for them. I thought Chance and Dallin were pretty good. Berry was okay. Tamari Martin, I thought, had a pretty good game actually. Tried his guts out, but wasn't overly productive. Fanua Blake was good. But Tohu Harris and Egan were the best for the Warriors, and that was just the amount of work that they got through, because they had to in the middle of the field, because Penrith just kept pumping through there. Fish and Leota and Garner were really good. Garner's had two really good back-to-back games, actually, for Penrith side. Edwards, Taruva were great. Crichton, Toto, and Isaiah Yeo were awesome, but it was all the points to Cleary. Just give him all the points.
I don't care. Let's give him all the points.
Cleary 6. I gave Yo 2, and then I had Liam Martin for 1. I thought Liam Martin would, again, love to see the eyes rolling around. He was hitting those lines and hitting blokes in and around the ribs and doing a bit of damage. So,
Dylan Edwards would be the only other I'd mention.
Yeah, 100%.
His support play was...
and he cracked open that middle a couple of times off his own bat.
Probably should have passed to Crichton. And there's another 6 points there, but he went out of his way to really hammer that front door through periods of this game. So, great effort. Who do you want to be with, Brisbane or Penrith? It's going to be a grand final. It might be the best grand final we've had in 4 years.
Might be the best grand final we've seen in a long time. Penrith on consistency, but there's something about that Brisbane side that they can put 20 to 30 points on in the space of about half an hour.
What Brisbane
minutes.
will do is hit the Penrith forwards harder than they've been hit for 3 months.
Yeah, and they've got some X factor out.
But they need to score. The template's there. They need to score first and score maybe twice.
They probably need 2 or 3 tries early.
I've said it for 3 years now. You've got to make them chase 12 or 18, and then Reynolds has got to get on the phone to DCE, and then kick low, make their foot take that kick return out of the back line, and work back from there.
I'd be pretty happy having my money on Penrith, but
I would too.
Wouldn't shock me if Brisbane came out and put 20 points on in the space of 10 or 15 minutes.
I've spent 3 years trying to get Penrith beat, so I'm going to stop doing it now. I'll stick with Penrith, but I think this should be a cracker. The other thing they've both got in their favour is they're both fit.
I just want to see the forward battle, mate. Yeah. I want to see 60 minutes of those two packs just belting absolute crap out of each other.
It will be a proper game of football, which is sometimes we don't get in grand finals.
No.
Yeah, but as I was saying, a lot of these other teams that we're about to talk about have fallen to bits as well.
Yeah.
Not just...
a lot of injuries.
And we see it every year, their epic prelim finals.
They limp in and then snap their Achilles on the way through.
They're just walking shots. I would have said both these teams are straight sets, but they're coming against two teams that are also busted. I've said Melbourne straight sets I did say Melbourne straight sets on Friday night. I said Warriors straight set Saturday, but they're now playing two teams that...
If the Roosters didn't lose those 3 outside backs, I'd be putting money on the Roosters.
I'm probably going to, when we get there, probably still tip Newcastle, but... to be honest, I haven't even looked at what's happening in those two team lists.
We'll get to that.
Two fantastic performances from the two best teams all year. And generally we see one of these teams drop one in this first week, so it's a nice change that we're on track for that grand final. 7 or 8 o'clock that night, we saw 13-12, the The Roosters squeak home against the Sharks in a physical, worthy game, as my headphones keep flying up, and I might just pause this and switch it because give me the shits now. The running repairs seem to have done the job. Usually helps when I pull the right cable. Anyway.
Press record too, don't you?
I've done that. Hey, look at me. I'm like a professional and shit. 13-12. Sharks over Roosters, Barn. What'd you make? We'll get in the stats and then you can have the first hit up.
2 tries apiece, 2 missed conversions for Cronulla, 2 out of 2 for the Roosters, 2 out of 2 penalty goals for Cronulla, missed 2-point field goal, and 1 out of 1 for the Roosters. 73% completion, played 74%, 124 plus running metres for Cronulla, 4 line breaks to 4, 38 tackle busts to 53, 6 offloads to 8, 1 forced dropout from Cronulla, 352 tackles played, 361. 15 errors to 12, 4 penalties conceded to 6, 2 inside the 10 against the Roosters, and a sin bin against the Roosters. Game ended up being very frantic, I thought. Nervous in attack. First half was all the Roosters being very nervous and unsettled in their attacking structure, and the Sharks were pretty settled early. They were going through the motions. They were dominating the middle with the likes of Royce Hunt, Blake Brayley and McGuinness really digging in behind the markers and causing a lot of problems for the Roosters in and around the ruck, and then they went away from it in the second half. I don't know what that was all about.
Well,
but
that was
they
the
did.
story of both these games. There was periods in both these next 2 games we're going to talk about where for the first 15 minutes I thought Sharks were going to win by 20.
Mm-hmm.
Then I thought Roosters were going to win by 20. Then I thought Sharks were going to win by 20 again. And the same thing happened in the Newcastle game.
Yeah, 100%
but,
it did.
The seesaw was, pretty crazy, actually.
And I think the Sharks buckled mentally, to be honest. They only put on 6 points in that first half, and I think that really unsettled them coming into the second half because with all the dominance in that, they pretty much owned that entire 40 minutes in the first half. And the fact that they only put 6 points on, I think, really rattled them. And they started to get really frantic towards the back, especially towards the back end of the second half. That's when the Roosters seemed to come into their own, actually. Even though when everything was going wrong for them, the blokes getting sent to the bin and blokes getting injured left, right and centre, they really settled down. The likes of Keary and Walker really stepped up and started getting the ball out to the edges really quickly, and there was a period there for about 15-20 minutes where they were just carving through the outside backs of Cronulla with footwork and pace and causing no end of problems for the Sharks, having to turn around and run back and chase them into the corners. They managed to stop them most of the time, but it was very unsettling the way that they were destroying the outside backs. Brandon Smith really changed the tempo for the Roosters, I thought, about 10 minutes into that second half, or whenever it was that he came on there in that second half, and he really started to open up in behind the ruck for the Sharks. Mm-hmm. Whereas, as I said, the Sharks went away from it. That's where the Roosters really started to step up in that second half, and it was Brandon Smith that opened them up 3 or 4 times in the space of about 10 minutes, and off the back of that, they hit the edges and carved the Sharks apart there for a 10 or 15 minute period.
I know we've sort of gone chronologically. I want to wrap your front rows. They were fantastic in the first half. Toby Rudolph and Hunt were both physical and really put it on them. Really gave it to the Roosters and allowed them to. Those two are pretty much the reason you should have been up by probably 18 points at halftime.
Problem was the bench didn't add a great deal when they did get involved, unfortunately. As I said, they're making massive meters up against the Sharks. They started panicking, making errors, but then the ricochet and Trindle runs down the other end of the field, and they get Teddy sent to the bin for 10. And the next 10 minutes was a procession for the Sharks, and they could not score. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
how they opened them up 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
That was where I was like, all right, the game's over. This will be 20-6, and that's it.
Every time they touched the ball in that next 10 minutes, they opened them up especially down that left edge, and they were making 20, 30 metres at a time. That camped down the Roosters' end, and they could only get over for the one try, which was actually quite a nice catch and pass from Nico to put Molitano over in the corner, and they actually had to work to get that ball over there. But I don't understand how they didn't open them up 2 or 3 other times. They only seemed to be concentrating on that left-hand side. They didn't really go to the middle. They wanted to go from side to side, whereas obviously you play a short, you go 1, 2, 3 through the guts, draw the defence in and then start hitting the edges. But I thought the game plan was a little bit. They got a bit lost there.
That was we were critical of Sharks earlier in the year when they couldn't win games.
Yeah,
that it was left to right, right to left, left, left,
and they got into a bit of that, especially with the one man short. And
I need to wrap the Roosters' defence.
Oh,
because they've lost Teddy,
especially in the first.
They've lost Manu. They lost Swiley, and Billy Smith had a broken jaw for half of that. They had Crichton out on an edge. They had Sia Wong on the edge with him, and a bloke that's played 15 first grade games or something.
Palga.
And their scramble, as it has been in this run to the finals, was phenomenal. Kept them in this game. Desperation.
Even in the first half,
Lindsay Collins running down Trindle
in
again.
That first half.
That led to for him to run him down.
They held up Jack Williams over the line.
Yeah.
I thought the McGuinness one, surely part of that ball touches the line, but another one that was held up over the line. Well, he wasn't really held up. He landed on the ground, but somehow the ball didn't hit the ground. Blown opportunities. I think they dropped one over the line, basically. I think it was Katoa was basically hit on the chest with an open line in front of him and dropped it. 1 minute to go with Teddy off the field. You're 10 metres in front and you get a penalty and you kick the 2.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's semi-finals football and it got him out to a 2-point lead, but isn't that the time where you try for that? You got 3 tackles there to 10 metres out to try and open them up and put 4 to 6 points on them at that point, which would have been, I think they win the game from there if they take that opportunity rather than kicking the 2.
Yeah.
But
no, fair. They also didn't try to... And I actually thought the Walker field goal was taken quite early.
Yes.
But there was no real intent to chase that down until the last 2 minutes where it got real frantic from Nico. And then they had the 2 scrambled shots.
And they waited till the last both times.
Exactly, yeah.
There was one there, they were on the 3rd tackle, and I was screaming at the TV, take it. Now, they were dead set 10 metres out, directly in front. Nico was 10 metres behind the play, sitting there waiting to take the ball, and then he sweeps off to an edge. I was just like... Just fucking take there's 2 minutes left in the game, or it might have been 3 minutes left in the game. Just even it up now. Take the one, and they're not going to be charging out of the line at you like they did, and charge them down both times. Like, it's just having that little bit of forethought to go, okay, when are they not expecting us to take it? Just fucking take it. You know what I mean? Too many times you see it get down to the last play, and you saw it in the next game as well.
I was about to say, I'm going to make my note because Fogarty did it about 3 or 4 times in the extra time.
Yeah.
There was one where they got a penalty, and
we did it twice in regular time, I think, and twice in extra time.
There was one where the very first play of extra time, and I know it's 10 minutes extra time, he had a shot 10 out right in front, and he's kicked to the corner. Yeah. Maybe not 10 out, but it was a cross-field bomb instead of just having a shot. Yeah. But we'll get to that game.
Yeah, and you take it when they're not expecting it, really. But what can you say? Roosters fought so hard, and at the end of the day, I thought the Sharks probably were the better team for longer in this match and should have won this game, but they went out of their way to make some pretty dumb playmaking decisions at the wrong time, and the Roosters capitalised. When Teddy came back on, I pretty much resigned to the fact that it was all over, to be honest. They got close enough. It's good to see them fight rather than, like, I thought their way out of the finals last year. They had a really good game against the Cowboys, but then got pretty well controlled and smacked in the next one. So I know, they finished 6th, and it's probably about where they deserve to finish realistically with the squad that they've got. They're now going to need probably 2 or 3 forwards going forward next year, and I think they need another centre and push Talakai back into the middle, but I've only been saying that for a year and a half, but we'll see if they decide to do it or not. And probably wouldn't hurt to get another backup centre, really. But other than that, well done, the Roosters.
You get Kennedy back, and that gives you Tracy as a centre. Yeah.
True. But Roosters absolutely busted their ass. There was tremendous effort at times where they really didn't. They had to drag themselves back into a game that they didn't have any right to be in, realistically, and they were brilliant in the amount of effort that they put in. What do we say here? I thought the 2 misconversions really hurt. So did the first Sydney Roosters try. I thought that was really soft, where they let Terrell May just crab across field, push 2 blokes off, and one pass hits Manu, and then they score in a corner like this. They lost the game themselves, I thought, the Sharks here, and hopefully they learn some lessons next year. They are a young
even
squad.
A second try was a team that generally happens to
it bounces off the feet.
An unlucky team or two that I know.
And, they're a very young squad. I think they're the second youngest squad in the comp. So hopefully they learn some lessons, and next year they can grow from that. But we'll see what
a full
happens.
pre-season with those halves in that combination can only help.
Mulatalo was the best of the back five. Hunt, Williams were decent. McGuinness and Nakora were very good. Hines was the Sharks' best. He tried his ass off, made some bad decisions, but was still their best player on the field, I thought. Billy Smith, Manu caused plenty of problems out in the edges, as I mentioned. Walker and Collins were good. Collins has grown another leg this year. I'm pretty sure I backed him last year to have the season of his life, and then did an ACL in the first game or whatever it was. It was out for the year, but yeah, he's really progressing well. Terrell May was brilliant, as was Nat Butcher.
Origin's the best thing that happened to Lindsay Collins this year.
Yeah,
He's come back and just become a. He'd almost be, if you're picking from since then. Not my first choice, but he'd almost be
top three,
top
props.
Five. Yeah,
absolutely. Walker, Collins, May and Butcher were fantastic, and so was Brandon Smith and Sia Wong playing out of position. Some of the tackles he made were pretty, they were essential, really. Yep. The Sharks were away, and he was the one covering across, trying to grab blokes, and he stopped Talakai once or twice close to the line, just stopped him dead where he may have pushed off a normal centre rather than a back rower. But, I thought he was brilliant again. Those two interchange blokes, they've got some good ones going forward there in Wong, Terrell May, and Terrell May and Sia Wong. They got something going on there.
More exciting than maybe we got even excited about your Tupanua last year. I think he's a better player, more complete player than
Looks
Wong.
like it.
And I'll mention him because he's the only bloke you didn't mention. But Victor Radley had a good game. I don't mind putting the boot.
Just about to say he was the best player on the field.
Oh, there you go.
You can go ahead.
No, I was about to say that. I thought his defence was phenomenal in this game.
Absolutely, it was.
But you go and say you say it much better than me.
Go for it.
No,
All I was going to say was he's the best player on the field.
Well,
absolutely works his guts out in the middle of the field. He was a part of just about every tackle when the forwards, especially in that first half when the Sharks were dominating him a little bit through the middle. He was the one that was cleaning up all the scraps, grabbing blokes as they were by the collar as they sort of half broke through the line. And he put a few really nice shots on in and around the ribs. I think he was the reason that Hazelton ended up with a torn stomach. But he really stopped a couple of blokes completely dead in the middle of the field. And his ball running, he wasn't doing anything stupid. He wasn't just offloading for the sake of offloading. There was no stray arms and knees and elbows, and he's really pared it back, and he's really controlled compared to what he has been earlier in the year.
Yeah, can't agree with you more there. So I assume he's getting 3.
Yeah, you got my 3. I had Bradley with 3 points, Sia Wong with 2, and then I had Terrell May with the 1.
Yeah, let's go with that. Something different. Do you want to have a go dart, or what do you want to do? Keep going.
Yeah, keep going. We'll get this game out of the way.
Look at this. 90 minutes we went with the last.
It did.
The last game of the round. 90 minutes. 28 to the Raiders. Played 30 to Newcastle. In a very, very good game of rugby league. And Barn, what did the stats say?
5 tries apiece, 4 out of 5 conversions for both teams, and 1 out of 1 penalty goal for Newcastle. 3 missed field goal attempts for Canberra. 70% completion, played 84% for Canberra. 292 plus running metres and 199 plus post-contact metres for the Canberra side. 4 line breaks to 4, 31 tackle busts to 49, 6 offloads to 9. 4 forced dropouts from the Canberra side. 438 tackles played, 364. 15 errors for Newcastle, 9 for Canberra. All these stats say Canberra should have won by 20. 7 penalties conceded to 5, 1 inside the 10 to 1.
Well, I think in all fairness, you've got to say Canberra were the best team for 60 minutes.
They were.
It was. They came out very physical.
Absolutely bash up job,
and
they belted Newcastle.
They got fired up for this game, and I think they obviously just figured this is how we're going to win.
Considering you're missing Horsburgh and Papali'i as well.
Exactly. So I thought they were great, and those young forwards were all fantastic. Your Mariotas, and they lost old mate in the first couple of minutes too. Was that last week?
I don't remember him losing anyone.
Puru.
Oh, yes.
Howepapu was, only lasted 3 minutes. So I thought they were all great and set the tone for the game. And Newcastle didn't have answers for that whole time. And what changed the game essentially was the biting. And
Well, that's where teams are going to end up getting over Newcastle in this. We'll get to that in the preview, but I think the Newcastle forward pack, while it's been good enough to hold its own for sort of half of the season, at the start of the year, that's where they were getting absolutely flogged through the middle of the field. And, I wouldn't be surprised if you see something like that this week. But Canberra came out and absolutely bashed Newcastle up in the middle of the field. Had a lot of momentum, a lot of field position. Again, probably hurt themselves a little bit with their strike. They're not being able to provide a few more points early when they did have that dominance.
They still rely on either a Fogarty kick or a Whiten or a Tomoko one-on-one offload or
100%.
Or a Hudson Young tackle bust.
Barge over or maybe an offload from one of the forwards to create something.
That is their whole game plan.
Yeah, there's not a whole heap of ball playing that provides points for them. It's more a kicking game and a running individual efforts from some of the guys in the outside backs. They did go on a 15-minute period there where they really broke Newcastle apart at the back end of the first half, and we heard a few expletives and desk slams and the Newcastle people being told where to go from one of our fellow watchers here on the Sunday afternoon. It's they lost a lot of momentum when Tarpanay went off the field. 10 minutes before halftime, 10 minutes after halftime. Newcastle, that's where Newcastle really gained that ascendancy back in the middle of the field. And then for the next 5 or 10 minutes, once Tarpanay come back on, it was just that Newcastle were just hitting the edges. So it was Ponga and Young just putting on a show down that right-hand edge. I think Whiten was defending out there with Frawley, and they were giving those two an absolute bath out there. And it was really, again, it was probably only a 15, 20-minute period where Newcastle really got hit the front. But when they did, they put their foot down and put on a whole heap of points in a short stack of time. Canberra should have been ahead 24, 26-6 or whatever it was, or 10 at halftime. Would they go in 16-10 or 16-6? I think it was 16-6 at halftime.
6, yes it was.
Yeah, and it should have been closer to 30-6 realistically, and then it would have been a real comfortable, easy win.
There was some real good. Again, there was some good scramble from Newcastle, but a lot of it was pinned on our own line. Gagai was quite good with that, as was Fitzgibbon, but
it just couldn't provide that ball. That's the biggest problem. Is like Fogarty's got 1 or 2 in him a game, but he needs a foil. Was Whiten there at one point, and he'd give them maybe 1 a game, but they really need
even the back. If you look at the last 15 minutes in isolation, they clearly won that. They had the intercept.
I thought they were going to win it.
Well, yeah, so did I. And even after they scored, they've still got 2 tries in them, but they just don't have those points.
They need that fullback that chimes in the line. Rapana, for all he's worth, absolutely busted his ass, 230-odd metres, was probing, but he's looking for someone to provide him something.
Yes.
He's not someone that joins the line and then provides anything for anybody else on his outside or his inside. They need somebody that can provide a bit of ball playing, whether it's a fullback, whether it's a back rower, whether it's a 5'8". I think they really need to go into the market and find another 5'8" and possibly a fullback. Dare I say it? I don't know. Savage has been on the outer. He looked like he was going to be that guy, but he never really got back into this team this year. So
yeah, they get Seb Chris back. He's not really either. He's something, but again, he's more of I guess he's a good centre more than anything else.
They need a couple of ball players, and considering how good Ricky was as a ball player during his career, he seems to struggle to find them. So
he's never had a great halfback under him, has he?
Not
he's
really.
Never brought a
Fogarty's
halfback through.
Fogarty's been the best that he's had,
even through Parramatta,
he was pretty much set up when he got there. So
yeah, trying to think through, and very early on, obviously Craig Wing was a product of someone else, really.
100%.
Freddie was all right.
They really need another couple of ball players in that side. For all their dominance, only led by 10. Fitzgibbon offload was fantastic for Ponga. That got him back into the game, and then Ponga went for a skirt down the right-hand side, and him and Dom Young linked up a couple of times and, put it. That's when I think we both said to our Canberra mate, you're gone here. It's going to be 40. It's going to be 40-20 by the time they're finished running down that edge. But Canberra, to their credit, really fired up back through the middle of the field. started making inroads in there again. They did go from edge to edge. This is probably some of the better ball playing that I've seen out of Canberra for the entire season. They did stretch Newcastle a few times on the edges, but they didn't quite sort of open them up as much as they should have. A couple of really nice tries to put the game back to, 28 all. But
the last Canberra tries where they actually did play ball through the middle and had the offloads going inside and out.
Absolutely.
It was very nice.
Heartbreaking way to lose a game.
Yeah.
Penalty with, 2 minutes to go. Hudson Young was clearly offside, but previous game there was quite a few blokes that were clearly offside with 2 minutes to go as well, and the whistle was kept in the pocket. So, it's a hard one. How they don't call it in the other 3 games, because there was millions of offsides coming into the last. I know the first 2 games it didn't matter, but the Sharks-Roosters game, the Roosters weren't onside for the last 10 minutes. I'm not going to say the Sharks were either, but the whistle didn't come out once. And then to cost Canberra a game, it comes out with a minute and a half to go. So it would have been a penalty anyway, because Whiten cleaned up Ponga with a shot to the head. But
I was, as I said earlier, was critical of Fogarty choosing. I don't know if you even call it game managementship, overtaking that shot. He should have had a shot.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been kicking
the minute
to that
he got
corner.
A chance.
Yeah, 100%.
And then you worry about trying to defend
it. Yeah, and then you start again.
Yeah,
and it's evens again.
And that was in the first 90 seconds of that.
It was the extra time, 100%.
But they didn't.
Mm-hmm. They had plenty of field position too in that extra time period, and obviously couldn't break him open. 3 field goals charged down everywhere doesn't help. But I thought Rapana was awesome. Worked himself into the ground. Whiten and Frawley were okay, but didn't provide enough. Tapane, Mooney and Starling were all very good. Mariota and Whitehead were fantastic, and Young was probably their best player. Or Young and Whitehead were the two best players for the Canberra side. Marzu, Gamble and Frizzell were all very good. Elliott had a fantastic game, I thought.
He did.
And as did Phoenix Crossland. I don't know where that bloke learned how to tackle, because at the start of the year he was a dead set turnstile when he was defending at 5'8".
Pouring scorn on him at the start of the year.
When he was defending at 5'8", blokes would just run past him for fun and laugh at him as they ran past him. And now he's just belting blokes and making 60 tackles a game.
Maybe it's a story of hard work. The one you sort of just quickly brushed over is I want to wrap Tyson Gamble, because where he came from, what he's done last few years, he can be a bit of a hothead. Mm-hmm. I think especially since Jay Hastings got injured, I think he's been great. Great.
Especially the last 2-3 weeks.
And now he knows his game, where he doesn't try to do anything. He's not trying to kick 40-20s every set. He's not trying to throw rainbow balls, but he knows he's a running half.
He's going to run hard.
It's in the same
He's got a nice little short ball here and there.
And grub us through when he needs to, but then just allows Ponga to do what he needs to when he needs to. And I thought he was very, very good in this game.
Absolutely was, yeah. But Young and Ponga were the difference. Mm-hmm. Dominic Young and...
there's even that last Young try. There's something nice about... I don't know what it is. It's that when there was an intercept and Gamble's, making half a break, he knows he's got nothing. But you just see Young looming, and it's the same with Jason Saar. But you just it's like when you're watching a movie, you know what's going to happen, and then when it does happen, it's just like satisfying. You see just the shadow of Young
and the fullback
looming on Gamble, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm sweet now."
And they actually do get to him, and he big extender arm, bang in the middle of the chest,
and off he goes. But what a player!
I gave him 3 points.
Fair enough.
Actually, I know Ponga was creative at 1 or 2 different opportunities, but Young was the man that every opportunity they gave him, he finished every time. Like, he was the one that was charging down the sideline, throwing the ball, picking perfect passes back on the inside to put people away. Just constantly working 230 odd metres again, which I think he's put out for the last 5 or 6 weeks in a row. Ponga with 2, and I actually gave Crossland the 1. 60-odd tackles, couple of scoots out of dummy half, and some good service.
I went Gamble, but I'm okay with Crossland. Yeah, absolutely. As I said last week, what a advertisement for confidence. Like, these blokes, we would have laughed if another club signed them in the off-season. Yeah. Or bar maybe 3 of them.
100%.
And maybe even those 3.
And old mate O'Brien was on the chopping block at round 10.
Yeah. Apparently, even laughed at that. Yeah, so, what a... Yeah.
Well, he came out. He was addressing the rumours. He said, "They've come and spoken to me, and they've told me."
I think they met with Holbrook. They met with someone else. So, yeah, what a story! Like, he was our favourite whipping boy a year ago, and
I think we all tipped him to be the first coach.
Exactly.
Oh, second. We all had Hook as the first.
Yeah, we did. But and it seems like he's reined in. I think he's learned as well. Feels like he's not trying to be that angry man or whatever he's trying to be, and he sounded
He's
much
got the
more,
boys in and around him a little bit more.
Yeah, sounded much, more. I don't want to say professional, but much more level-headed in a lot of his press conference stuff. And so kudos to that whole club. The Ponga resurrection continues, and maybe in 20 years' time, the story will be the Penrith three-peat, but I think it's a story at least we shouldn't lose, and what a comeback it's been for Ponga this year and this club. So
I mentioned him the first time I saw him. We go back. I'm pretty sure it was on the show 3-4 years ago. Mentioned that I thought he was going to be a superstar down the track, and he went missing there for 2 or 3 years, and I was pretty concerned. But yeah, this year's been something to behold.
Yeah. So kudos to everyone involved up there. We're going to quickly wrap up. We've got to give out our usuals. For a pot plant of the week. Who?
Tonamapia
there you go.
Mine.
You haven't
He
left
got
much.
carved apart. Made 7 runs for about 40-odd metres. Made 12 tackles, missed 6 of them, and was just out of position consistently.
I had him, but I'm going to go.
It's pretty hard in the finals to pick a pot plant.
I know.
Realistically.
But I'm going to go with Munster just because he was similar, and I don't think he offered much in attack.
No, he didn't.
So I'm going to make him the pot plant. Let's go for a slap, and I will go with a tricky one again, but I'm going to go with Jack Whiten for biting.
Yeah.
I know lots of people defended as well, but
a result there.
Looked a bit silly to me.
Mine's the Sharks' playmaking decisions at crucial times.
My next one was going to be the Raiders' playmaking because they should have won that, and it actually was going to be Fogarty because he should have iced that game, really.
Yeah.
But you go.
Same with mine. Taking the 2 with Teddy still off the field for a minute to go was, a very poor decision in my opinion. Why the Sharks didn't take a few opportunities earlier when they were in good field position after, carving the defence apart, not having a set line charging at them with 5 minutes to go.
Even their field goal setup wasn't that good.
No.
Like, he was trying to shoot. He was trying to be as close to in front of as he can, but he should have been deep and trying to back himself.
But you've stretched them all the way down the field. They're on their own 10-metre line. You've still got players running back to get back on side.
Yeah.
2 passes and straight over.
Yeah.
But what do you do? So that was my slap. The Sharks, some of the decisions that the Sharks made in that game.
3 games, Jack Whiten.
Yeah, okay.
So
it's not too bad.
I guess it is what it is. I don't think once he was guilty, he was never getting less than that.
So Souths will pay him about $45,000 to train with them for the first 3 weeks of the year.
Well, I'm sure he'll do pre-season. Anyway, I'm going to salute the Chooks. Even though I was wrapping the Knights, I think from where they came from backward, at one point we were nearly throwing them in the bottom 3.
Yes.
They were in the bottom 3. To where they've got to, and to produce that effort, missing 4 key personnel, spending Teddy for 10 minutes.
Still not at their best.
And still not being at their best. To win that game takes tremendous character.
Absolutely it does.
And I'm going to salute them.
100%. Mine's the sublime 7s, mate. The 2 number 7s from the top 2 teams in this competition, they just come out and absolutely rubber stamped. They are the best 2 7s running around in the competition at the moment. And when their teams needed them, they absolutely stood up and took control of both of those matches.
Fantastic. That has been our look back on week 1. We've got week 2 to talk about soon. That show will be up as well. We've got our Daggy M Awards coming up next too. Check out rugbyleaguemerch.com. Buy some hats, steins, shirts and all the good stuff up there. Leave us some feedback through all the socials. We definitely and will get better at that over the off-season and into next year. About trying to engage everyone a bit better because we do get some fantastic feedback. Subscribe to Spotify and YouTube if you haven't already. And we'll be back with the preview of round 2 of the finals very soon. See you guys.
Bye.